middle school language arts teacher and author of the Lucia Chronicles. Today's video is a book review of The Love That Split the World by Emily Henry. There is the cover of the book by Emily Henry. As you can see, it's a girl falling through the earth. First, I'm going to read you my synopsis, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my thoughts. So, Natalie Clearly is graduating high school, but before she leaves for Brown in the fall, adopted as a young child, she's determined to figure out some things about herself before she leaves small-town Union. On top of her own identity issues, Nat's ex-boyfriend is still in love with her. Her best friend's leaving for college early to train for soccer, and then there's a mysterious boy she keeps seeing. The Love That Split the World opens up with Natalie experiencing a visitation from grandmother, a spiritual figure who Natalie likens to God. Grandmother has visited Natalie during the night for years and tells her Native American creation stories. Once Natalie makes the mistake of telling her parents about grandmother, she ends up in therapy, which results in the temporary disappearance of grandmother for several years. Until now, when grandmother appears with a cryptic message, you have 3 months to save him, but to save who? The story incorporates a lot of issues: growing up, leaving the familiar behind, friendship, searching for identity, and what it means to love and to be loved. There is so much that happens in the story. It's almost 400 pages long. As you can see, it's quite thick. It's 392 pages. And at times, it plays out a bit like a teen TV show, but I didn't find that it detracted from the story itself. Actually, I already have an interest in the metaphysical. I've just completed a book about past life regressions, a fiction book. So I found the psychology bits pretty interesting, even though at times it could be a bit jargony. Toward the end, I had about 150 pages left, and I found myself thinking about the book even when I wasn't reading it, so eventually I just sat down and finished the entire thing. I laughed, I teared up at some points, and I found myself relating to Natalie, despite the age difference between her and myself. I'm 34, she's obviously only 18 if she's just graduated, but doesn't everyone, regardless of age, want to experience unconditional love? I think my love for the story also came from the fact that I love the novel The Time Traveler's Wife. I still refuse to see the movie. Sometimes the books are so good that I just don't want the movie to ruin something for me. That's why I won't see the movie version of The Giver either. But after I looked up author Emily Henry, I found out she also loves Lois Lowry, who's one of my favorite authors, and that we both share The Giver as a favorite book. Personally, I think this is one of those books that you'll only love if you're on board with all its bits and pieces. The Love That Split the World is published through Razorbill, which is an imprint of Penguin Books, and Henry has another book coming out in 2017. Whenever I add a book on my Goodreads shelf that I'm currently reading, sometimes I take a look at the reviews underneath. Some of the reviews I saw reference things that didn't even happen in the book, so I'm not sure if they had an ARC version that changed, or if they were referencing a different book and got confused because I couldn't find a scene that someone didn't like it didn't happen. It kind of happened, but they said it happened in a psychology classroom, and it happened in a spiritual research, like, scientist's office, and it didn't play out like they did, so I think that the reviewer is trying to be snarky. I often find a big discrepancy between reviews on Goodreads and reviews on Amazon. So on Amazon, The Love Is What the World has a higher rating, but for me, I really loved it. Some people in Goodreads thought that it was trying to do too many things, and it is, and that's why I said that sometimes it feels like it's playing out kind of like a movie on Freeform, which is the new ABC Family. But I think that it's appropriate within the context of story. It's a coming of age tale. Everyone's going through changes. It's about how small town living is, which I have no background on because I come from a really large suburb, and there was 1,000 people just in my graduating class. So when I was in high school, there was like 3,000 people in my school, and then I went to Kent State, which is one of the larger universities in Ohio, so I really have no concept of the small town thing, but I really liked it. And Natalie's love interest, Beau, is like what every girl wants. So if you're not really into teen lovey things, you probably won't like it, because she's pretty, smitten with him, and he's pretty smitten with her. So there's a little bit of that. I didn't feel that it crossed any lines. It's fairly clean content considering the high school kids for the most part. There's a couple scenes involving some of the other characters, but for the most part, I think that it's a really great story. I love that it talks about parallel lives because I happen to be a believer in that. I love that it talks about, kind of debunks it from the scientific point of view and how a science mind might look at it. I don't know much about the adoption of Native American children. I guess there was some kickback from how Natalie was adopted, but it's fiction. Fiction means, by definition, that it's made up. Yeah, you can have realistic fiction, but it shouldn't be compared to something in real life, even if it is realistic fiction, because it's still fiction. So I feel that it didn't detract from the story. I didn't even bother to research whatever the brouhaha was, because guys, I'm reading to enjoy a book, not to verify the facts in the book. One cool thing though is that the Native American stories are based in reality, so if you find those interesting, you can check those out too, and Emily Henry actually acknowledges that in the back of the book. So I give the book 5 stars because it's everything that I want in a book. It moves me emotionally. It grabbed me and kept me interested. I could relate to the character and her internal conflicts, and it had a great love story that surpasses the universe and different lives, and it just was well written. So I really liked it. So if you're into the metaphysical and you are into love stories, then I think you should check out The Love That Split the World by Emily Henry. So in the meanwhile, happy reading and happy writing.